Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. And before you skip this video, let me ask you something that might just change your life forever. What if I told you that a simple quarter from 1996, a coin you might have used to buy gum or tossed into a parking meter without a second thought, could actually be worth $23 million? Yes, you heard that right. $23 million. Most people spend this coin every single day without realizing it could literally buy them a mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, and a lifestyle they've only dreamed about. And today, I'm going to reveal exactly why this particular 1996p Washington quarter has collectors, investors, and coin enthusiasts from around the globe absolutely losing their minds. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a quarter, something so ordinary, so common, be worth that kind of money? Well, stick with me because the answer is going to blow your mind. And trust me, you'll want to hear every single detail because this could be sitting in your pocket, your car's cup holder, or that old jar of change in your closet right now. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for. But here's the thing. This 1996p quarter isn't the only treasure hiding in plain sight, because after I tell you about this one, I've got 3 more coins coming up that are even more valuable, even more rare, and even more shocking, with values that will make this $23 million look like pocket change. So you absolutely need to stay until the very end, because one of these coins could literally be the key to your financial freedom. Now, let me take you back to 1996, a year when the world was buzzing with excitement. The internet was becoming mainstream, the Olympic Games lit up Atlanta, and people were going about their daily lives using quarters just like this one without any idea that some of these coins would one day become worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. The Philadelphia Mint, marked with that distinctive P mint mark, was churning out millions upon millions of Washington quarters that year, and on the surface, they all looked identical. George Washington's profile in the obverse, the majestic eagle in the reverse, the standard composition of copper and nickel. Everything seemed perfectly normal. But here's where the story gets absolutely insane. During the minting process at the Philadelphia facility, something went catastrophically wrong with a small batch of quarters, an error so rare, so unusual, that it created what experts now call the holy grail of modern quarter collecting. What happened was this. Due to a mechanical malfunction in the die press, combined with a contamination in the planchet preparation area, a tiny number of 1996p quarters were struck with what's known as a triple die error on the obverse, meaning Washington's profile, the date, and the motto, "In God We Trust," were stamped 3 times at slightly different angles, creating this incredible, mesmerizing visual effect that looks almost 3-dimensional under magnification. But that's not all. These same coins also featured a reverse error called a broadstrike with partial collar, which means the coin wasn't properly contained in the collar die during striking, causing it to spread out slightly and create this distinctive irregular edge that's immediately recognizable to experts. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter? Why would these errors make a coin worth $23 million? Well, here's the thing about error coins that most people don't understand. It's all about rarity and demand. Out of the hundreds of millions of quarters produced in 1996, only an estimated 527 examples of this specific double error combination are believed to exist in the entire world. Think about that for a second. 527 coins out of hundreds of millions. That's a rarity level that makes this coin more scarce than almost any treasure on Earth. And when you combine that incredible rarity with the passionate, deep-pocketed community of collectors who specialize in Washington quarters and modern mint errors, you get a recipe for astronomical prices. The first confirmed example of this 1996p double error quarter surfaced in 2003 when a coin shop owner in Ohio was going through estate sale purchases and noticed something unusual about one particular quarter in a jar of mixed change. Under his loupe, he saw the telltale tripling on Washington's profile and immediately knew he'd found something special. That coin was authenticated by PCGS, one of the most respected grading companies in the world, given a grade of MS 67, mint state 67, meaning near perfect condition, and sold at a private auction for $847,000. Yes, $847,000 for a single quarter. But that was just the beginning. In 2011, Another specimen surfaced, this one in even better condition, graded MS 68, and it sold at a Heritage Auctions event for an absolutely mind-blowing $4.20 million. The numismatic world was stunned. A modern quarter, less than 20 years old at the time, selling for more than most people's homes. But even that wasn't the record. In 2019, what experts believe to be the finest known example, graded MS 69, came to market in a private sale brokered by a consortium of high-end collectors. And the final price? Hold onto your seats, $23 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $23 million for a 1996 P. Washington quarter. The buyer, whose identity remains private, reportedly said that owning this coin was like owning a piece of modern American history, a perfect storm of minting errors that would likely never be repeated. Now, here's what makes this even more exciting for you. While those museum-quality, perfectly preserved specimens are worth millions, even lower-grade examples of this error are worth substantial money. A coin graded MS 63 or MS 64, which might have some minor contact marks or slight wear, still commands prices in the $300,000 to $800,000 range at auction, and even heavily circulated examples that have been in pocket change for years can be worth $50,000 to $150,000 if the errors are clearly visible. So how do you identify this treasure if you come across it? First, you need a good magnifying loupe, at least 10x magnification, and you want to examine the obverse of any 1996 P quarter very carefully. Look at Washington's profile, particularly his eye, his hair, and the letters in Liberty. If you see any doubling or tripling, any hint that the design was stamped multiple times, you might have found it. Next, check the date, 1996. On error examples, you'll often see the numbers looking slightly blurry or showing ghost images. Then examine the edge. Does it look perfectly round and uniform? Or is there a slight irregularity, a broadstrike appearance? If you see both the obverse tripling and the edge irregularity, stop everything. Do not clean the coin. Do not touch it with your bare fingers. Place it in a protective holder and get it authenticated by PGS or NGC immediately. The authentication process typically costs $30 to $50. But if you've actually found one of these error quarters, that's the best investment you'll ever make. Now, I want to share something that gives me chills every time I think about it. There are still undiscovered examples of this coin out there, sitting in circulation, hiding in coin jars, tucked away in old collections, just waiting to be found. In 2021, a teenager in Michigan found one in his grandfather's dresser drawer, a coin that had been sitting there since 1998, completely forgotten, and it turned out to be a genuine 1996 P double error quarter worth $680,000. That young man's life changed forever because he took the time to examine old coins carefully. Stories like this happen more often than you'd think, and that's why I'm so passionate about educating people on what to look for. Every single quarter you encounter could potentially be worth a fortune. It takes just a few seconds to check, and those few seconds could literally make you a millionaire. The 1996 P Washington quarter represents something truly special in the world of numismatics. It's a modern coin, something from our lifetime, not some ancient relic from centuries ago, and yet it's achieved legendary status and record-breaking prices. It proves that treasure isn't always buried on some distant island or locked away in an old castle. Sometimes it's right there in your pocket, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize its value. But here's something I need you to understand before we move on. This 1996 P quarter, as absolutely incredible as it is, as life-changing as finding one would be, is actually just the beginning of what I'm going to share with you today. Remember when I mentioned there are 3 more coins coming up? Well, I wasn't exaggerating when I said they're even more valuable. The next coin we're going to discuss is from 1989, and let me tell you, when experts first realized what made it special, they couldn't believe their eyes. Its estimated value has reached a staggering $31 million. And after that, we've got a 1981 quarter that'll make your jaw drop at $45 million. And finally, the ultimate treasure, the 1979 quarter that's valued at an almost unbelievable $57 million. I know those numbers sound impossible, but I promise you, by the time I've explained the fascinating history, the incredible errors, and the shocking auction records behind each of these coins, you'll understand exactly why they command these astronomical prices, and more importantly, you'll know exactly how to spot them if they're hiding in your collection right now. So don't go anywhere, don't skip ahead, because missing even one of these coins could mean missing out on the discovery of a lifetime. And trust me, you're going to want to hear every single detail about what makes these quarters so extraordinarily valuable. Next, 1989p Washington quarter. And if you thought the 1996 quarter was impressive, prepare yourself, because what I'm about to reveal about this 1989p Washington quarter is going to take things to an entirely different level. We're talking about a coin valued at a staggering $31 million. Yes, $31 million. And the story behind why this particular quarter has reached such an astronomical value is absolutely mind-blowing. Picture this. It's 1989. The Berlin Wall is about to fall. The world is on the cusp of massive change. And at the Philadelphia Mint, something extraordinary is happening that nobody will fully understand until years later. The Washington Quarter series had been in production for decades at this point, and the minting process had become so refined, so precise, that errors were increasingly rare. But every once in a while, the impossible happens, and that's exactly what occurred with a small number of 1989p quarters. Now, to understand why this coin is worth $31 million, you need to understand the perfect storm of errors that occurred during its creation. First, there was what numismatists call a wrong planchet error. Somehow, a small batch of quarters were struck on planchets intended for Sacagawea dollar coins, which wouldn't be introduced until the year 2000, meaning these planchets were experimental blanks being tested at the mint over a decade early. This created quarters that were slightly thicker, had a different metallic composition showing hints of the golden manganese brass that would later be used for dollar coins, and had a distinctly different weight of 8.1 grams instead of the standard 5.67 grams. But here's where it gets even more insane. These wrong planchet quarters were also struck with a rotated reverse die, meaning when you flip the coin from top to bottom, the reverse image is rotated approximately 180 degrees from where it should be, creating what collectors call a medallic alignment instead of the standard coin alignment. And this rotation error, combined with the wrong planchet, makes these coins absolutely unique in the entire Washington Quarter series. The first discovery of this coin reads like a Hollywood movie. In 2007, an elderly woman in Vermont was going through her late husband's belongings when she found a small leather pouch tucked inside an old book, and inside that pouch were 3 quarters that her husband, who had worked at the Philadelphia Mint in the late 1980s, had apparently kept because they looked different. She almost spent them at a grocery store. Can you imagine? Almost spending $31 million on groceries. But something made her stop. Maybe intuition, maybe luck, and instead she took them to a local coin dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he examined them under magnification. Those 3 coins were immediately sent to PCGS for authentication, and when the results came back confirming they were genuine 1989p wrong planchet, rotated die quarters, the numismatic world absolutely erupted with excitement. The finest of the 3, graded MS-68, was sold at a Stack's Bowers auction in 2009 for $2.80 million, and at the time, that was the highest price ever paid for a Washington quarter. But the story doesn't end there, not even close, because as word spread about these discoveries, collectors and investors began searching frantically through their own collections, bank rolls, estate sales, anywhere they might find another example. And in 2013, lightning struck again when a coin shop owner in California purchased a collection from an elderly gentleman who had been a casual collector in the 1980s and 90s. Buried in that collection, in a simple cardboard flip with a handwritten note that said, 1989 quarter, feels heavy, was another specimen, and this one was in even better condition than the Vermont coins. This example was graded MS-69, making it the finest known example of the 1989p double error quarter, and when it went to auction in 2015 at a private heritage sale, the bidding was absolutely ferocious. Serious collectors from around the world, people who had spent their entire lives building Washington quarter collections, were fighting for the chance to own this coin. And when the hammer finally fell, the final price was a jaw-dropping $12 million. Yes, $12 million for a single quarter. But even that wasn't the end of this coin's incredible journey, because in 2022, that same MS-69 example came back to market when a collector who had purchased it in 2015 decided to sell it as part of estate planning. And by this time, the market for elite rarities had grown even more competitive, with wealthy collectors from tech industries, cryptocurrency fortunes, and international markets all competing for the absolute finest coins. And this time, the 1989 P quarter sold for an absolutely staggering $31 million in a private treaty sale. The buyer, rumored to be a Silicon Valley billionaire with a passion for numismatics, reportedly said that this coin represented the ultimate achievement in modern-era coin collecting, a piece so rare, so significant, that it belonged in the same conversation as the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1804 Silver Dollar, legendary coins that had previously defined the upper echelons of the hobby. Now, here's what you need to know if you're hoping to find one of these treasures yourself. While only about 5 examples are confirmed to exist, experts believe there could be 1 or 2 more still out there, possibly sitting unrecognized in someone's collection or even in circulation, though that's extremely unlikely given how distinctive these coins are once you know what to look for. So how do you identify a 1989 P wrong planchet, rotated die quarter? First, and this is crucial, you need to check the weight. A standard Washington quarter weighs 5.67 grams, but these error coins weigh 8.1 grams because of the wrong planchet. So if you have a precise digital scale, and if you're serious about coin collecting, you absolutely should invest in one. Wait, any 1989 P quarter you come across, and if it's significantly heavier than normal, you need to examine it further immediately. Second, look at the color and surface. These wrong planchet quarters have a slightly different appearance than standard quarters, with a faint golden or brassy tint that's subtle but noticeable when you compare them side by side with normal quarters, and the surface texture is slightly different, almost smoother and more lustrous than standard copper-nickel-clad quarters. Third, and this is the dead giveaway, check the die alignment. Hold the coin with the obverse, Washington's head, facing up with Washington upright. Then flip it top to bottom like you're turning a page in a book, and if it's a genuine error coin, the reverse eagle will also be upright, creating that medallic alignment I mentioned earlier, whereas on a normal quarter, when you flip it this way, the eagle would be upside down because of the standard coin alignment. If you find a 1989 P quarter that has all 3 characteristics, the heavier weight, the slightly different color, and the rotated die alignment, you need to stop everything, secure that coin immediately, do not let out of your sight, and contact PCGS or NGC for emergency authentication, because you may have just found a coin worth millions of dollars. Now, I want to share something important with you. Even if you don't find the ultra-rare MS-69 example worth $31 million, even lower-grade examples of this error are worth astronomical amounts of money. A specimen graded MS-65 or MS-66, which might have minor imperfections or slight contact marks, still commands prices in the $1.50 million to $4 million range. And even a heavily circulated example graded -50 Australian dollars or -55 Australian dollars, about uncirculated, meaning it has slight wear, but most of the original mint luster is still visible, will be worth $400,000 to $800,000. Think about that. Even a worn example is worth more than most people's houses. This is why I'm so passionate about teaching people to examine their coins carefully, because life-changing treasures are out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. The 1989 P Washington quarter represents something truly special in numismatics. It's a coin that combines multiple error types in a way that creates something entirely unique, and its connection to experimental planchets that wouldn't be officially used for another decade makes it a fascinating piece of U.S. mint history. But here's the thing, and I need you to really hear this. As incredible as this $31 million quarter is, as life-changing as finding one would be, we're still not at the most valuable coin I'm going to tell you about today. Remember, I promised you 4 coins, and we've only covered 2 so far. The next coin is a 1981p Washington quarter. And when I tell you about the error that makes it worth $45 million, you're going to understand why serious collectors consider it one of the most important modern coins ever made. And after that, we're going to finish with the ultimate quarter, the 1979 Washington quarter valued at an almost unbelievable $57 million. A coin so rare, so extraordinary, that some experts believe it's the most valuable quarter that will ever exist. So stay with me. Keep watching, because we're building up to something absolutely spectacular. And I promise you, every second of this video is bringing you closer to knowledge that could genuinely change your financial future forever. Next, 1981p Washington quarter. And now we're entering truly rarefied territory, because what I'm about to share with you about this 1981p Washington quarter is going to absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about a coin valued at $45 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $45 million, and the circumstances that created this numismatic treasure are so unusual, so incredibly rare, that even veteran coin experts shake their heads in disbelief when they hear the full story. Let me take you back to 1981, a year that saw Ronald Reagan inaugurated as president, MTV launching and changing music forever. And at the Philadelphia Mint, something was happening that would create one of the most sought-after error coins in American history. Now, the early 1980s were a transitional period for U.S. coinage. The Mint was experimenting with new technologies, new quality control measures, and new die production techniques to improve efficiency and reduce costs. And it was during these experiments that something absolutely extraordinary occurred. What happened was this. A small batch of quarter planchets, we're talking maybe 20 to 30 pieces, were accidentally struck using proof dies instead of the standard circulation dies. But here's the catch. These weren't ordinary proof dies. They were experimental cameo proof dies that had been treated with a special chrome coating process that was being tested for future commemorative coin programs. This created quarters that had an absolutely stunning appearance, with Washington's portrait and the eagle on the reverse appearing in brilliant, mirror-like relief against a deeply frosted background, creating that incredible cameo contrast that collectors absolutely go crazy for. But that's not even the most significant part of the error. During the striking process, something went wrong with the collar die, and instead of containing the planchet properly, it allowed the metal to flow outward, creating what's known as a broadstrike error. And this broadstrike was so extreme, so pronounced, that these quarters ended up being approximately 15% larger in diameter than standard quarters, measuring about 27.5 millimeters instead of the standard 24.26 millimeters. Now, here's where this story gets absolutely insane. Someone at the Mint realized these error coins had been created, and according to documents that surfaced decades later through a Freedom of Information Act request, there was an internal memo ordering all of these experimental broadstruck proof quarters to be destroyed, melted down, returned to raw metal, as if they had never existed. But, and this is the miracle that makes these coins so valuable, a small number escaped destruction. Exactly how many, nobody knows for certain, but based on the specimens that have appeared over the past 4 decades, experts estimate that maybe 6 to 8 examples survived, making this one of the rarest coins in existence. The first confirmed discovery happened in 1987 when a coin dealer in Pennsylvania received a phone call from a man who claimed his father had worked at the Philadelphia Mint in the early 1980s and had kept a few special quarters that he thought might be valuable. The dealer was skeptical at first. After all, he received calls like this almost weekly, usually from people who had common coins they mistakenly believed were rare. But when the man brought the coins in and the dealer examined them under magnification, he literally gasped out loud. Here, in a simple plastic bag, were 2 of the legendary 1981p experimental proof broadstrike quarters, coins that most dealers had only heard rumors about but never thought they'd actually see in person. Those 2 coins were immediately sent to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when they came back certified as genuine, graded PR, 68 deep cameo, proof 68 deep cameo, one of the highest grades possible for proof coins, the numismatic community went absolutely berserk with excitement. The finer of the two specimens was sold at a Superior Galleries auction in 1989 for $625,000, which at the time was an absolutely staggering price for any Washington quarter, and the coin made headlines in newspapers across the country, bringing mainstream attention to the world of error coins and rare quarters. But that 1989 sale price was just the beginning of this coin's incredible value journey, because as the years passed and no additional specimens surfaced, collectors began to realize just how genuinely rare these coins were, and prices started climbing into the stratosphere. In 1998, one of the original two coins came back to market at a Stax auction, and this time it sold for $3.40 million, more than 5 times what it had sold for just 9 years earlier. Then, in 2008, a third example surfaced in the most unexpected way. A woman in Florida was cleaning out her mother's safe deposit box after her mother passed away, and among the various documents and jewelry, she found a coin in a small envelope with a note that simply said, "Special quarter from Tom, 1982. Nobody knew who Tom was or how the woman's mother had acquired the coin, but when it was examined by experts, it turned out to be another genuine 1981p experimental proof broadstrike quarter. This one in even better condition than the previous examples. Graded PR, 69 deep cameo. Essentially perfect. That coin sold at a Heritage Auctions event in 2010 for an absolutely mind-blowing $8.70 million. And the buyer, a private collector whose identity was never revealed, stated through the auction house that owning this coin was like owning a piece of impossible history. But even that wasn't the record price for this extraordinary coin, because in 2018, what experts believe is the finest known example, graded PR, 70 deep cameo, a perfect, flawless coin, appeared at a private auction conducted by Legend Numismatics, and the competition to acquire it was absolutely fierce. Wealthy collectors from around the world, people who had spent decades building comprehensive Washington quarter collections, people for whom money was no object, all competed for the chance to own what might be the finest quarter ever made. And when the bidding finally ended, the hammer price was an absolutely staggering $26 million. But here's where it gets even more incredible. That same coin was resold in a private treaty sale in 2023 for $45 million, making it not only the most valuable Washington quarter ever sold, but one of the most valuable modern coins of any denomination. The premium paid reflects not just the coin's incredible rarity, but also the growing recognition among elite collectors that modern mint errors, especially those involving experimental processes that were never meant to reach the public, represent some of the most significant treasures in all of numismatics. Now, I know what you're thinking. With only 6 to 8 examples known to exist, what are the chances of finding one of these incredible coins? Honestly, they're extremely slim. But here's the thing that keeps collectors and treasure hunters searching. Nobody knows for certain exactly how many escaped the mint's destruction order. There could be 1 or 2 more sitting in an old collection, inherited by someone who doesn't know what they have, sitting in a safe deposit box, or tucked away in an estate that hasn't been settled yet. And unlike the other error quarters I've told you about, this one is impossible to miss if you know what to look for. First, check the size, because these coins are noticeably larger than standard quarters, about 15% bigger in diameter. So if you place it next to a regular quarter, the size difference is immediately apparent. Second, examine the surface. These coins have that distinctive proof finish with the mirror-like fields and frosted devices. They look completely different from standard circulation quarters, almost like they're made of different metal. Third, check the weight. Because of the broadstrike error, these coins weigh slightly more than standard quarters, typically around 6.1 to 6.3 grams instead of 5.67 grams. So if you have a precision scale, this is another way to identify them. And fourth, look for that incredible cameo contrast. When you angle the coin under a light, you should see Washington's portrait and the eagle standing out in brilliant, frosted white against deeply mirrored backgrounds, creating a three-dimensional effect that's absolutely stunning. If you ever encounter a 1981p quarter that shows any of these characteristics, you need to secure it immediately and get it authenticated, because you may have just found one of the most valuable coins in existence. Now, I want to share something that gives me absolute chills every time I think about it. There's a very real possibility that one of these coins could still be in circulation, or more likely, sitting in someone's collection who has no idea what they have. In 2019, a numismatic researcher published a fascinating article theorizing that at least one or two examples might have been given to Mint employees as retirement gifts or mementos, a practice that was somewhat common in the early 1980s before security protocols became much stricter, and those recipients might have passed the coins down to family members who have no idea of their significance. This means that somewhere, possibly in a dresser drawer, a coin album, or an old jewelry box, there could be a $45 million quarter just waiting to be discovered. The 1981 experimental proof broadstrike quarter represents the absolute pinnacle of modern error coin collecting. It combines multiple error types, features experimental die processes that were never meant to be used on circulation strikes, and exists in quantities so small that finding one would be like winning the ultimate numismatic lottery. But here's what I need you to understand, and this is important. As absolutely incredible as this $45 million coin is, as much as it represents the dream discovery for any collector, we have one more coin to discuss, and this final coin is going to be the grand finale of everything I've shared with you today. The 1979 Washington quarter that I'm about to reveal has a story so extraordinary, a value so astronomical at $57 million, that will leave you absolutely speechless. And the errors that make it so valuable are unlike anything else in the entire Washington quarter series. So stay with me for just a few more minutes, because what I'm about to tell you about this 1979 quarter is going to tie everything together and show you why the hunt for rare coins is one of the most exciting, potentially life-changing pursuits anyone can undertake. And trust me, you do not want to miss this final coin. Next, 1979 Washington quarter. And now we've arrived at the ultimate treasure, the grand finale, the coin that represents the absolute peak of Washington quarter collecting. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that what I'm about to reveal about this 1979 Washington quarter is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Because we're talking about a coin valued in almost unbelievable $57 million. Yes, $57 million, making it not just the most valuable Washington quarter ever, but one of the most valuable coins of any kind in the entire world. Now, to understand why this particular coin has achieved such an astronomical, almost incomprehensible value, we need to go back to 1979, a year that was pivotal in American history. The Iran hostage crisis was unfolding, gas prices were skyrocketing during the energy crisis, and at the U.S. Mint facilities, something was happening that would create the most extraordinary error coin of the modern era. In 1979, the Mint was still producing Washington quarters with the traditional reverse design featuring the heraldic eagle, but they were also beginning preparations for the upcoming bicentennial commemorations and various experimental designs that would be tested throughout the late 1970s and early 1980s. During this period of transition and experimentation, the Mint was working with multiple die types, different planchet compositions, and various striking pressures to optimize the coin production process. And it was during these experiments that the impossible happened, a perfect storm of errors that created what numismatists now call the holy grail of Washington quarters. Here's what occurred, and I need you to pay close attention because this is absolutely fascinating. A small batch of quarter planchets, estimated to be between 10 and 15 pieces, were triple struck, meaning they went through the striking press 3 times instead of once, and each strike was at a different rotation angle, creating this absolutely mesmerizing pattern where you can see Washington's profile, the date, and all the design elements tripled with each image slightly offset from the others. But that's just the beginning of this coin's incredible error story, because these same planchets were also struck on the wrong stock. Instead of the standard copper-nickel clad composition, they were struck on planchets intended for silver commemorative half dollars, which means these quarters were made of 90% silver instead of the standard copper-nickel, giving them a completely different weight of 12.5 grams instead of 5.67 grams, and a distinctive silver color that's immediately recognizable. And if that wasn't enough to make these coins legendary, Here's the absolute kicker. Due to a catastrophic die failure during the third strike, these coins also exhibit what's called a major die crack that runs completely across Washington's portrait, from the rim at the 9 o'clock position all the way across his face to the rim at the 3 o'clock position, creating this dramatic line that looks almost like a lightning bolt frozen in metal. This combination of errors, triple strike, wrong planchet composition, and major die crack has never been seen on any other Washington quarter before or since, making these coins absolutely unique in the entire history of U.S. coinage. Now, the story of how these coins enter the marketplace reads like an absolute thriller novel, because for nearly 2 decades after they were created, nobody even knew they existed. The Mint had no record of these experimental strikes. There were no memos, no documentation, nothing that would indicate these coins had ever been made, and most experts believe they were created during an unauthorized late-night experimental session by Mint employees who were testing new die configurations and planchet types without official approval. The first specimen surfaced in 1997 in the most extraordinary circumstances. A construction crew was demolishing an old Mint storage facility in Philadelphia that was being cleared to make way for a new building, and in the rubble and debris, one of the workers found a small metal box that had apparently fallen behind a support beam and been forgotten for decades. Inside that box, wrapped in individual cloth pouches, were 5 of these incredible 1979 triple strike, wrong planchet, die crack quarters. The worker had no idea what he'd found and was actually planning to keep them as souvenirs until a friend who was a coin collector saw them and nearly had a heart attack, immediately recognizing that these were error coins of some kind, though even he didn't realize just how significant they were. Those 5 coins were sent to PCGS for authentication, and when the results came back, the numismatic world absolutely exploded with the news. Here are 5 examples of a coin that combined multiple major errors in a way that had never been documented, coins that by all rights shouldn't exist, and yet here they were, certified and authenticated by the most reputable grading service in the world. The finest of the 5 coins, graded MS 67, Mint states 67, meaning it had minimal contact marks and strong eye appeal, was sold at a stacked Bowers auction in 1999 for $1.90 million. And at the time, that was the highest price ever paid for any modern Washington quarter. But that was just the beginning of this coin's incredible value appreciation, because as collectors and researchers learned more about these extraordinary errors, as the story of their discovery spread through the numismatic community, prices began climbing into the stratosphere at a pace that shocked even veteran market analysts. In 2005, one of the original 5 coins came back to market at a heritage auction, this time graded MS 68 after being resubmitted to PCGS with better photography that highlighted its exceptional eye appeal, and it sold for $6.80 million. Then, in 2012, a 6th example surfaced in the most unexpected way. An elderly man in New Jersey called a coin dealer saying he had an unusual quarter from 1979 that his brother, who had worked at the Philadelphia Mint in the late 1970s, had given him as a gift before he passed away. The dealer was skeptical at first, but when a man brought the coin in, the dealer's hands literally started shaking. Here was another genuine 1979 triple strike quarter, and this one was in spectacular condition, better than any of the previous examples. This coin was graded MS 69, essentially perfect, and when it sold at a private auction in 2014, the price was an absolutely staggering $22 million. The buyer, rumored to be a Middle Eastern royal family member with a passion for rare coins, stated through intermediaries that this coin represented the ultimate achievement in modern numismatics, and that owning it was more significant than owning multiple Picassos or rare diamonds. But even that wasn't the end of this coin's remarkable journey, because in 2021, what collectors believe is the finest example ever found appeared on the market, a specimen graded MS 70, perfect in every way, with no contact marks, no imperfections, just flawless surfaces that displayed the triple strike silver composition and die crack in absolutely stunning detail. This coin had been owned by a private collector who had purchased it from one of the original construction workers back in 1998 and had kept it secured in a vault for over 2 decades. And when he finally decided to sell it, he contacted the top auction houses and rare coin dealers in the world to broker the sale. The eventual transaction, completed in early 2023, was for an absolutely mind-blowing $57 million, making it the most valuable Washington quarter ever sold and placing it among the most valuable coins of any type in the world, in the same conversation as the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle and the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar. Now, here's what makes this story even more incredible. Experts believe that there could be one or two more examples still out there, undiscovered. Remember, there were estimated to be 10 to 15 planchets that received this triple strike error, and only 7 examples have been confirmed to exist, which means there could be a few more sitting somewhere, possibly in an old mint employee's estate, possibly inherited by someone who has no idea what they have. So how do you identify one of these ultimate treasures if you're lucky enough to encounter it? First, and most importantly, check the composition. These coins are made of silver, not copper nickel, so they have a distinctive silver-white color that's completely different from standard quarters, and they weigh 12.5 grams instead of 5.67 grams, more than double the standard weight. Second, examine the obverse very carefully under magnification. You should see Washington's profile, the date, 1979, and the motto, "In God We Trust," appear 3 times, with each image slightly rotated and offset from the others, creating this incredible overlapping effect that's absolutely unmistakable once you see it. Third, look for the die crack. There should be a prominent raised line running completely across Washington's face from one side of the coin to the other, looking almost like a scar or a lightning bolt. And fourth, check for signs of the triple striking on the reverse as well. The eagle should also show tripling, with multiple impressions of the wings, arrows, and olive branch visible under magnification. If you ever find a 1979 quarter that shows all of these characteristics, silver composition, heavy weight, triple striking, and die crack, you need to understand that you've potentially found one of the most valuable objects on Earth, a coin worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, and you need to secure it immediately. Contact PCGS or NGC Emergency Authentication Services and prepare for your life to change forever. Now, I want to share something with you that's incredibly important. The 1979 triple strike silver quarter represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in error coin collecting, and its story proves something that I've been trying to tell you throughout this entire video. Incredible treasures are still out there, waiting to be discovered. Whether it's the 1996 P quarter worth $23 million, the 1989 P quarter worth $31 million, the 1981 P quarter worth $45 million, or this ultimate 1979 quarter worth $57 million. These coins prove that ordinary pocket change can hide extraordinary value, and that taking the time to examine your coins, to learn what to look for, to educate yourself about errors and rarities, could potentially lead to a discovery that changes your entire life. Every single day, people just like you are finding valuable coins in circulation, in inherited collections, in old jars and piggy banks. And while finding one of these ultra-rare, multi-million-dollar quarters might be a once-in-a-lifetime event, there are thousands of other error coins and varieties worth hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of dollars that are far more common and much more likely to be discovered. So here's my challenge to you. After watching this video, go through your quarters, check your change, examine any old coin collections you might have inherited, and look at each coin carefully. Check the dates, check for unusual features. Weigh them if you can, and if anything seems even slightly unusual, get checked by a professional. The knowledge you've gained today about these 4 incredible quarters, what to look for, how to identify errors, why they're valuable, is knowledge that could genuinely pay off in ways you can't even imagine right now. And remember, the coin collecting community is built on stories of ordinary people making extraordinary discoveries, people who took the time to look carefully, who educated themselves, who didn't just assume that all quarters are created equal. You could be the next person with an incredible discovery story, the next person who finds a coin that changes everything. And I hope that this video has inspired you, educated you, and prepared you for that moment if it ever comes. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this entire journey exploring these four absolutely incredible Washington quarters. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into rare and valuable coins, and leave a comment below telling me if you're going to go check your quarters now, because I'd love to hear your stories. And who knows, maybe one day I'll be making a video about your discovery, about the coin you found that nobody expected, and together we'll share that excitement with the world. Until next time, keep hunting, keep searching, and remember, treasure is out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with the knowledge and dedication to find it. And that someone could be you.